my expectations because I didn't really have any. I was a little nervous when you were elected mayor because I didn't really know you, and I mean it's been a wild ride, but boy have I enjoyed working with you, and you've been a fantastic mayor and a really good chair. I don't think people realize what a difficult job it is to chair a meeting, and I'm going to miss you. And this is a card and some chocolates from us.
Oh, thank you.
And if I also may say how much I've enjoyed working with this council, and I'm speaking on behalf of staff. And our next council has a high bar there because the last 4 years has been a wonderful, wonderful time for me as CAO and for our staff to work so closely and collaboratively with the wonderful council. Thank you.
Sounds like a campaign speech.
I've been listening to the last few weeks.
So before we start our meeting, Mr. Rynch, welcome, sir.
Thank you. The Dominion Command doesn't allow the Poppy campaign to start until the 27th of November, but for the Prime Minister, the Governor General, and other people of equal value, we are allowed or asked if we would ask them to wear a poppy to let everybody know about it. So all I've done is come here is to ask you to wear a poppy for Remembrance Day.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
And I think we'll include you too.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you have a nice
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry Yvonne is sick, so that's why she's not here. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Even I can't wear one of these.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll call the meeting to order. Anything on the agenda?
There are no long table items today.
Is that a first?
No late items.
First and last.
That was our going away deal.
Do we have any public comments today?
No public comments today.
Okay, first of all, approval of agenda. Seconded, all in favor, pass unanimously. Okay. Whip right.
Yeah, you're real good at that.
Good try.
Real good. Okay, consent agenda. Yes, sir.
I'd like to pull 3.6, lot 1 rezoning.
3.6 lot 1 rezoning. Ah, come on. Okay.
You didn't think it was going to get to stay on, did you?
That lives in Hope.
Can I go 3.9 and then 3.10?
Okay, 3.6, 3.9, 3.10, 9 and 10.
I mean,
Oh, public art policy, okay, yeah, that's going to be
not
exciting.
the policy, the terms of reference.
Terms
And
of reference, more exciting.
Well, listen, I sent me an email last night, I didn't see it this morning, but there are some good points.
Oh, in the disco. Okay, anything else? Okay, motion to approve consent agenda.
oh, hang on. Tyler, the minutes. I think I have to pull them.
It was the first two were just typos. The second two were regarding a policy change, and so I wanted to clarify those with staff just before I adjusted them. They seemed fine, but I didn't have time to be able to.
Okay, but the fact that they haven't been changed on what's out in my agenda notes.
That's right. So if you need to pull them to identify
Okay,
that, that's fine.
so, okay, when you say, so the minutes of the regular council meeting, I'm fine with. It's the public hearing, it's 3.2 and 3.3.
Okay. 3.2, 3.3. Okay, done with this one?
Simple changes.
Okay. Motion to approve consent, seconded, all in favor, passed. Okay. Now, it's a nice long list. So is Sarah Bruce up today? Okay, Sarah, do we have Sarah? Oh. Okay. So this is, notice that we're going to have a,
This is why we have the audience.
yes. So this is simply notice that this will be discussed at the next meeting.
I think it's the meeting at the end of November, so the new council will be making a decision. We're just to get the ball rolling, asking council to give notice.
Morning, Sarah. You ready for me now? Sorry about that. I thought I had a more time. I was just finalizing everything. So, hi. Oh, thank you. So I'll be going through a temporary use permit and a provincial referral for a non-medical cannabis retail store in Village Square. So the property is located in Village Square, as I said, at 992 Dorman Road, and it's just adjacent to the Village Baker. So just for some background, in June 2018, the federal government passed Bill C-45, the Cannabis Act, which legalized non-medical cannabis use as of October 17th. So in preparation for the national legalization, the province also established a legislative framework for the production, sale, and use of non-medical cannabis under the Cannabis Control and Licensing Act. And this also gives local governments the ability to determine suitable locations for cannabis retail stores. In our land use bylaw, we prohibit the sale of cannabis in all zones. So
This is the only reason we have food, because we're talking about.
Okay. I actually like that you're being distracted. So this is my first time presenting, and I'm
All right, we're passing around the edibles.
The sale of cannabis is prohibited in all zones, so we're looking at it on a case-by-case basis, which is why we have this application. So the applicant is pursuing a use permit to allow non-medical cannabis retail store in Village Square, adjacent to the Village Baker, in a 613 square foot ground floor unit. So staff recommends that notice be given that the temporary use permit will be considered at its November 26th meeting, and that council authorized staff to give notice in accordance with the Local Government Act to properties within 100 meters of the store.
Do we have any questions or discussions?
I've got the mouthful now.
What's our wicked boy?
Are there any requirements? I remember when all the discussion was going on when the city of Vancouver was creating their bylaws. Were there any requirements, and they were having things like no glazed windows, and are those requirements anywhere in the provincial legislation?
Yes, they are.
And I couldn't see it.
Yeah, on the first slide, it also shows that they have this handbook that they've come out with. So it has like a bunch of different requirements in terms of security and like
But somebody can-
visibility and signage and all that type of thing.
But it was more that they didn't want sort of, so somebody couldn't walk by quickly and see what was
Yes,
going on
yeah.
inside. So I
Yeah.
didn't see that in there, so.
It is in the handbook
Okay.
or the guidebook.
Thanks.
I have a quick question. Can you remind me why we've also got the Crown Land Referral C on here, or are you going to go on to that?
I will go on to that
Okay.
next. The reason is for, well, I'll explain it in a minute, I guess.
Okay.
The November presentation.
It might make sense to get a resolution to accept the recommendation on the first report as shown in our agenda package.
So I'll move that notice be given that council will be considering the issuance of temporary use permit TUP 02-2018 for a non-medical cannabis retail store for 203-992 Dorman Road, legally described as Straddle Lot 9, District Lots 490 and 489, Brookline, U.S. Westminster District, Straddle Plan LMS 3935. Together with an interest in the common property in proportion to the unit entitlement of the straddle lot as shown on Form B at the November 26, 2018 meeting of council. And the council authorized staff to give notice for the consideration of issuance of temporary use permit TUP 02-2018 in accordance with Section 494 of the Local Government Act to all properties within 100 meters of the legal boundary of 203-992 Dorman Road. And I'm going to skip the legal description this time.
Okay, seconded, all in favor? That's passed unanimously.
Thank you. Yeah, so we'll move on to the same presentation. So Again, the applicant is pursuing a provincial application as well at the same time, since that's also a requirement for the non-medical cannabis retail store. Same details. The only additional detail that came with this one was that the proposed hours of operation are between 11 a.m. and 9 p.m. 7 days a week. So under the same act that I previously mentioned, applicants are required, or sorry, local governments are required to seek comment or the views of residents when reviewing an application if we're going to give comment. So there's a couple different ways that we are able to do so, but what we are recommending is that we do it basically in the same method that we do for a temporary use permit, which is to issue for neighbors within 100 meters. So that is our.
Does anyone have a profound desire to read?
We type it as.
Well, I just have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Does this mean that do we have a mechanism for letting everybody on the island know that this is going into the store? Or is this the usual way, is just the people that live there, citizens within 100 meters?
Yeah, so it's advertised in the newspaper as well, and then specific notice is given to neighbors within 100 meters, so.
Thank you.
It's both. Okay.
I'll go to Maureen and then work my way around.
I'm just trying to figure out the sequence here. Do we, assuming we support the temporary use permit, is that contingent? What's the connection between these two?
Well, I guess in order to have the store, they need the provincial licensing to do it. I'm not really sure in terms of process which one comes first.
We would approve the temporary use permit first to say the land use is in place, but then we comment that to the province that we're okay with it being there. So the temporary use permit would come first, and that's why it's first in your agenda.
Okay. And then in terms of timeline, assuming that we approve it, the province has asked for feedback, do we have any idea how long it might take for this store to open?
Yeah, I know the applicant has said that they wouldn't open until January of 2019-ish. So I mean, if they received all their necessary approvals prior to that time, but.
I know the province has steps where they come and they inspect. So I don't know what their timeline is after hearing back from us, how long it actually takes them to issue a license, I don't know.
How do they know volume issues as well?
I'm wondering, Daniel, has the province indicated how long it will take to process applications? Have they given any sort of ballpark figure?
No, I've asked them a couple times, and they kind of say, well, we'll be processing them according to when they come in and they get out.
So we don't know if it's 2
I don't know if
weeks,
they don't know.
2 months.
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they were pretty fast in this turnaround, and they've been very responsive when we had asked them questions. They've been very responsive, so they're clearly on it and are, moving timely. So I'd assume they, I don't know, it'd be a few weeks or a
I'm
month.
assuming there's a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, Melanie, did you have a comment?
I think has been answered.
Okay, and anyone else?
Well, just following up on, I guess, Sue Ellen's question. We're supposed to canvass residents, right?
Gather the view of residents.
Yeah, so the motion's a bit limiting because if I were a resident reading it sort of says, well, it's only the 100-meter people that are going to, and I don't know what the notice in the paper will say. It won't have any reference to the 100 meters, will it?
No, but it does give anyone, I guess, on the island to provide feedback via writing or
but
coming to
I'm
the
thinking
meeting.
just for to show the province that we actually consulted with residents, that we should add including a notice in the newspaper.
Okay, I think that's what the first statement is there for, that notice be given, that notice would go into the newspaper after that notice.
Well, no, it says the council authorized staff to gather the views of residents in accordance with section 33 of the Canada by sending notice to all properties.
Okay.
So there's nothing in there about the island generally.
I do understand what you're saying, Allison,
Yeah.
and it's pretty prescriptive in the second paragraph under the Crown referrals. Does the provincial legislation say it has to be within 100 meters, or is that what we've? So maybe I can suggest, rather than notice to 100 meters, is if we do a mail drop to the community. It's inexpensive to do, and then that covers off the majority of the community.
Okay, for the sake of this recommendation, how about if we just say in accordance with Section 33 Cannabis Control Licensing Act, period, and send notice to all properties?
My question relates to the two recommendations that are up here, which are different wording than anything we've got on our agenda.
Okay.
And so I'm wondering if we should pass them all, or whether we should fold these two into these formal recommendations in front of us. I wonder, can you speak to that?
I think this was just the condensed version
Yeah,
of the
right.
longer ones. It's just a quick snap of what your document should say.
We passed the first one already.
No,
I don't think so.
Well,
It
this
just says,
And notice be given.
this is the referral.
What if we passed the first one? in the
Yeah, it's
previous
confusing because
recommendation?
it says Crown land referral, and it's
Yes.
just really a Crown referral.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Can I suggest it, the recommendation on the agenda under 61C, the first paragraph be adopted as written, and then we, rather than do the second paragraph on the agenda cover sheet, I think that gives more flexibility of how we get the notice out to the community, rather than, it's not as prescriptive as the.
I would support that.
so you sever
Separate
these,
At
right?
here,
Yeah.
at here,
And you're
this
not
one
gonna
goes,
vote on
this
the
one
second
is
paragraph
as
at all
per
because
with
staff will
everything
just
you
do
do.
it?
Well, this covers it off, but yeah, I think.
Okay, well, it's what's in the thing, we just have to put a period after,
Council,
November 26, 2018 meeting of council
council
period?
period.
yeah.
Yeah, and I would just say
And
sending
then
notice
second
to all
paragraph,
properties.
all properties.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I think
Yeah.
it's the first.
Okay.
So we're not doing the first part of that.
No, we're doing the first part.
Do this and then substitute.
Sorry.
Do you want me to read? Can I suggest, I'll just.
Yeah, could you just read it?
That notice
Then-
be given that council will be considering a provincial referral application 04-2018 for a non-medical cannabis retail store for 203-992 Dorman Road, legally described, and I'll do what Allison did and I'll read it, together with an interest in the common property and
No, keep going.
blah, 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 yeah, okay. At the November 26, 2018 meeting, the council authorized staff to gather the views of residents for the consideration of provincial referral application 04-2018 in accordance with section 33(3) of the Cannabis Control and Licensing Act.
Period.
Period.
And deleting everything else.
So we're deleting by sending notice to all
Yeah.
properties
Oh,
within 100 meters?
Yeah.
I thought we were going to leave on by sending notice to all properties.
Well,
but we'll be doing that, that's implicit, I mean, yeah.
it's according to the act. Whatever the act tells us
Yeah.
we do, we do.
So moved.
So just before I get to you, Maureen, I just want to get back in order here. Michael was next up, and then we'll just keep.
If we could, I'd like to get this passed, and then if there's any other questions, it's almost trite, so that I'd like to focus on this, I think, Mayor.
Okay, Shirley, do you have anything more?
I'm seconding
Okay.
Maureen's motion.
Oh, is that what you were doing, Maureen? You were making the motion, okay. Oh, that's right. I remember all that now.
How quickly we forget.
And we have that seconded. Any more discussion before I call the question?
So I'm very comfortable with the fact that we're now sending notice to all properties, but can we also get that to include as well all our normal electronic means as well?
Yes, I think that,
Is that
that's
implicit?
implicit, yes.
Okay, fine,
Yeah.
I just, okay.
Yeah, we will blitz.
The blips, the,
Yeah.
okay.
Great.
All in favor? And that's passed unanimously.
Mayor,
Thank you, Sarah.
Can I just ask Sarah that one very, Sarah, have we just done everything now by passing these two so that everyone can move on to the next stage at the conclusion of this council? Have we now done everything this council needs to do so people can move on, and this is it, we move to the next step?
Yes,
That's what I
So
want.
it comes back for a decision at
Yes.
the end of November, but yes.
This is where we are now, and we move
Yes.
on.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Okay, next up. Bob or Raj or both? Hi, guys. Hi. Yeah, I think you're going to be part of this, Raj.
So, the recommendation for council is that the Miller Senior Road Latecomers Policy and Bylaw to amend the Bowen Island Municipality Snow Cove Sewer Regulation Bylaw number 46-202, amend Bylaw 470 to be read first, second, and third time. To give you some background, this is the Miller Road Pump Station. So, what do we call themselves now? Snow Cove House.
Lift station, same
Yeah.
thing.
The Snow Cove House, they put in $400,000 for
Yeah.
their subdivision. We had to come up with another $600 and some thousand dollars. So what this is a latecomers, so anybody that can connect to that existing line now that we put in, they pay a portion of the of the cost of the $646,000 that will recoup the money that we've actually spent as a municipality.
Okay, I'll start with Sue Ellen and come back, okay? Sue Ellen.
First, I just want to offer an observation that the Snug Cove Sewer Advisory Committee hasn't met, so this isn't something that's come before the committee at all. And I wanted to ask a question about the Library at Cove Commons.
Yes.
At a recent meeting, we were told that Library at Cove Commons might hook up through the fire hall, and I'm wondering if they will be subject to extra costs, will they be subject to latecomer fees? Because they already invested like $20,000 or more in septic tanks because they didn't think they were going to be allowed to hook up. So I'm wondering if that can be explicit and whether they have been consulted.
Because it's our
It's
library.
institutional, yeah.
Yes, but
Our
we
land,
actually,
our building.
it's our land and our building.
Yeah.
And we're trying to recoup the money, our money.
Right.
So I think that's a Raj question, but
Because the
So-
fire hall was in here, I thought I would ask. It's institutional and it had a .0 something number.
If they are a benefiting party, we could consider that as part of the municipal cost and work it into the equation. Yes, but that hasn't been considered because of more recent information, when we first prepared the report and when KWL did the analysis for us.
yeah, because when we started this, it was back in March.
Yeah.
So there was no talk of the library connecting to that. But we recalculated again.
Well, I just
Or-
don't want any surprises for the library in the Cove Commons. They're still in fundraising,
Yeah,
trying
no,
to finish the
and
project.
that's a separate discussion we would have
Yeah.
with them, but I think it's a different situation because as it is municipal lands and municipal buildings.
Yep.
So I think it's a bit comparing oranges to apples, but I think once we deal with this one, then that is a conversation. I hadn't realized that they are now looking up to.
I just heard this at a meeting, I think, when
Okay,
we were
that's the
away.
first time, yeah, I
Yeah.
heard it.
They weren't looking at it. It was, Judy told us that that was a possibility.
Okay.
Or
that
that's been
would-
talked about at the
Yeah.
fire hall for ages.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those meeting minutes are not
Yes, they
public. And anyway, I looked through the
Yeah.
minutes, I didn't find any record that in the parts that were open to those of us on council who were allowed to read the minutes. Not all of us are.
Okay.
Actually, that is not the case anymore, is my
Yeah, all
understanding.
closed minutes for closed committees go on closed council agendas, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
I couldn't find anything
Yeah,
about it anyway.
yeah.
I thought maybe that's why, that there was some parts that were.
No, but I do think that's a completely separate discussion. It's a little more complicated because it is municipal land, but we certainly don't want to make it difficult
I
for
just-
Cove Commons in the library.
Yeah, okay, well, that's good, I just, thank you for the confirmation, and if I can go to the second part of my question is that the same reason that the health center and the affordable housing and the rest of lot 3 is not included in the benefits zone?
This was done
Before all
before
that.
any of the talk had started.
Okay. So when will those all be added? It just seems funny to be considering something when things have moved on.
I think once the plans are firmed up, we can come back with an amendment or a revision. Once the subdivision plans are firmed up and we know who's going in there,
Right.
we will adjust the benefiting parties.
Okay. Well, that makes sense, okay, because we don't have any idea of the timing or
Yeah,
anything
and
like
the key
that.
is
It's
we
not-
don't want to hold up Snug Cove
Yeah.
House, and this is the reason
That's the
we've
point,
held it
right?
up
Yeah.
long enough with this one.
And all the lots along Seniors Road that are all itching to connect, I can't just wait around for another year.
I'm not suggesting
Yeah.
waiting,
Yeah.
I was just making
But
sure
it's a
that,
good question.
yeah, that nobody was being disadvantaged, I guess
No.
is the question. Okay, thank you.
Okay, coming around the table, anyone else?
No, Murray.
Okay, so we're adding a fee schedule to the bylaw, but
Yes.
I've gotta get way down the pipe, right? Hate having paper. Now, is the policy being added to the bylaw?
I think you need to ask Raj and.
Is the policy being added to the bylaw, Raj?
I believe not, I believe
Okay,
we are,
so-
yeah,
So I think we,
introducing a separate policy,
Okay, so
and all
our-
we're adding to the bylaw is that schedule of agreement.
so the motion needs to be that proposed Miller Senior Road latecomer policy be adopted and that the bylaw blah, be read a first, second, and third time. So when we add something to a bylaw, which is a fee, and we're not adding the rest of lot 3, even in the map, as a benefiting area, I'm a little uncomfortable. I don't know why why the map doesn't show the whole of lot 3 as a benefiting area.
Can I jump in on that? I
And-
think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and the other part of the map is, it is clear that lot 3 is in the sewer area, I believe, but it's not, because lots in the current sewer service area, there's no dots around lot 3 or that part of Crippen Park or the RCMP, and they're all in the service area. So I don't know that the maps even is accurate.
I think this is talking about lots that are in the service area that are also part of being served by this line.
Well, no,
So
the
that's what they chose to
definition
show.
says lots in current sewer service area. And all of lot 3 is in the current service sewer area, as is the RCMP lot and the gas station, I believe, or the gas station, the
They
RCMP.
come back the other
aren't.
way? Yeah.
Okay, so the gas station, the RCMP aren't, but lot 3 is.
Well,
So-
maybe not that part of what.
No, well,
They're in the service boundary, but they're benefiting for this. So the fire hall.
I have no problem with the red line, lots in benefiting area, except that it doesn't show the whole of lot 3.
Allison has a good point, as Sue Ellen did, and I would suggest if staff aren't able to answer these questions, that we refer this to the next council meeting, because these are good questions.
Before we move on to that, I just want to bring up the parcel 2. If, looking forward, there are residential units above Seniors Lane, they're going to feed into this as well, right? There'll be a gravity feed theoretically into the top of the station. Or will they go straight down the Millard Road and
They go straight down into Miller's Road and connect there, so they're not benefiting by the force main or the lift station. It'll be all gravity into the corner at Seniors, so.
okay, anything above there will be gravity in a different setup, but it will go into that, that manhole that's above the insurance office and go
Yeah.
from there, right?
No, it'll go likely right on Bowen Island Trunk Road. It would win that way. Where area 1,
Yeah.
or like the community center will break into the Bowen Island Trunk Road. They will not connect into the force main.
Right, but now if a development happens, say above Eddie's place.
Way at the back, yes, then they would have they'd have to build some more infrastructure to get into that.
Okay, if there were some units that went in right up against Bowen Court, in that flattened area at the top of Miller.
Yeah, there'd be more infrastructure to be built to go into the lift station.
And
Yes.
that, right, but then that would then tie into the lift station as
Yes.
well. I'll tell you what I'm getting at here, and that is that we're looking at $21,250 per lot to hook up. On top of that, we have the $10,000 contribution to the eventual upgrade of the sewage treatment plant. So we're up to $31,250. So as a property owner, you now have to figure out whether or not that works for you. And my understanding is that the $330,000 for Bowen Court, the numbers didn't work for them. And there is a couple of compelling reasons, or a couple of reasons why we would like this to happen. One is there's more people to share the cost of actually running the system. And 2, there's the lost opportunity on the money for every year that it sits out there that we haven't hooked these people up. So sure, 20 years from now they could. And I also noticed, Raj, that there is a thing in there about adding the interest cost of the money to the amount of the hookup fee. Is that sort of the lost opportunity on the sunk money, or what is that?
I'd have to review that. Right now, what I can tell you is that we have a 15-year limit on being able to recover these costs. So once 15 years passes, the opportunity to recover these costs is gone. You can't charge the latecomer fees after the 15 years.
So the seniors, they can wait 15 years and go, we want to connect it, and the latecomers just don't apply.
Right. I guess what I'm getting at is that I think there should be, there's the cost side of the equation, and there's the customer side of the equation. You know, who sets the price? You sell your product based on what it costs you or what people are willing to pay. And once your costs are sunk, they're gone, the money is spent. Now it's a matter of how much can you recover, right? And so setting this at $21,250 based on what it cost you, I just think a little more careful analysis has to go into, is that recoverable, does that work? It was a good sounding number without the 10 grand added on for the other thing. So I mean, if this is going to be deferred to another meeting, that's great. I just wanted to point those things out.
I think it would be important for both Bob and Raj to meet with the engineers who developed this report. And also, I hadn't realized it wasn't referred to Snow Cove Sewer Committee. That's an important referral that needs to be done. And this has a significant impact on Snow Cove area, so I think it's really important to kind of revisit this. Some good questions here.
Well, while we're getting all the questions out, is Daniel still here?
Yep.
Is the Telus lot and the Heritage, or the Museum and Archives lot, are they actually zoned as single-family lots? Because that's what the report, I think, is labeling them as, if I'm reading it.
We have Rob.
Yeah, I think we have, what's the word I'm looking for, multiple zoning for those lots. I think they have almost every kind of zoning you can think of.
Okay, the kitchen sink, in other words.
Yeah.
And then my other question was, in the lots in the Snow Cove sewer service area, we did amend the service area boundary a while back to include Snow Cove House. And they're not marked as so the other question I have is, why are we even doing the bylaw? If I'm reading everything correctly, as a municipality or local government, we don't need to do the bylaw, we can just do the policy. And
I think you need to ask these questions of the two managers.
Yeah.
Well, my understanding was that when you're setting rates, your rates are established by bylaw. So that table is being added so that we can actually recover those rates. You can't charge rates based on just a policy. Anything that a municipality collects has to be authorized by bylaw.
okay, because not wanting to be difficult, but you know I always am. If you look at latecomer charges in the Kerwood Light-All report, and also the item on the provincial government, it just says you can, as a municipality, it requires neither a bylaw nor public assent, except for automatic application. And when we did the expansion boundary policy, we didn't pass any bylaws. So I guess I'm wondering if we could make a slight amendment to the map and just adopt the policy today, if that's what, I mean, is this holding Snow Cove House up in any way?
No.
No.
It's for the people along Seniors Road that have asked. And,
okay, so
and it started with the seniors, the seniors housing.
Yeah.
At one time, they were in a big hurry to connect to the sewer.
I also think it's really important process-wise that this go to the Snow Cove Sewer Management Committee and that it be presented.
The map.
Yeah.
If I could throw one more thing in here. If you've got a 15-year limit on the latecomers agreement, why not split the charge between expanding the service area, which has no time limit? You know, so if you charged a
We've
house.
already got an expansion policy, which applies to the sewer.
Oh, to pay for the other.
Yeah,
other
for the sewer
project.
expansion.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
excuse me, but maybe we could defer this, because it seems the loose ends greatly exceed the amount of knots we've got here.
Yes.
So perhaps we could just move it on.
Right up and down.
The loose ends greatly exceed the number of knots we have. No?
Love to
Okay.
see you tying knots here.
So that just says we deferred.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next up, we have reports. And your,
Raj is still up.
Raj is still up.
I'm sorry,
6.3.
oh, the remuneration policy.
Yeah, I should tell you to know that one.
Yeah, but you're relevant at this point.
For you.
Sorry, Raj, carry on.
So the reason for this report is we're updating the policy and cleaning up the language in the policy and clarifying the policy itself. The last time this policy was reviewed was back in 2008. So the amendments included in the proposed mayor and council remuneration policy include a change in the title. It was previously called just the council remuneration policy, so we're now calling it the mayor and
1 second, can somebody tell me what page this is on? Because it's.
Well, I don't have page
It
numbers.
says 250, but it doesn't,
250 to 255.
oh, maybe I've got
It's
the old
the
version.
report.
Sorry, I must have downloaded the earlier version.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, you need to have
Okay,
page.
never mind, thank you. I'm being helped.
So the significant changes or amendments include change in the title. Again, in the old policy, the purpose of the purpose for the policy was called the statement of intent, so we've renamed it and just reworded the purpose. The principal section content primarily remains the same, however, some changes remain to the language to again enhance the clarity and transparency and intention of the statements within the principles. The timing of compensation reviews was aligned with council terms, and some of the additional sections which were in the original policy were already included in the principles and repeated, so the repeated or duplicated information has been removed from the policy. And the revisions that were made to the policy were reviewed and endorsed for approval by both the Finance Advisory Committee and the HR Committee. So primarily, it's a housekeeping exercise.
Okay, let's get the motion on the table and then we'll have discussion. That council approve council remuneration policy 0803 as amended.
You can move that.
I'll move that. Seconded. Okay. Any discussion before I call the question?
So this in no way addresses the taxation issue that's
No.
coming into play in January?
This is the policy as to how compensation would be calculated, and it follows the 2008.
I gather that,
model.
but this doesn't address that
No.
issue.
This does not.
Thank you.
So we did have that conversation during the HR committee. What
Yeah.
was the outcome of that conversation?
Leave it the way it is.
That
I think
yeah, we'll take the,
council
we'll
elect has
receive
the right to know what.
there is a external review in process, and the results of that review will be incorporated into the budget process and be brought forward for council approval as part of the budget process.
Thank you.
The review based on this policy.
Right, based on,
Yes.
Yes,
on
yes,
the tax change.
based on this policy and the review,
That compensation would include.
yeah, adjustment,
Yeah.
proposed adjustments accordingly.
Melanie?
So can you just clarify what the external review, so the Human Resources Committee has asked for an external review?
The policy says it.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
Melanie, this is, we contracted out a number of months ago to a company to do a review of both council remuneration and staff remuneration.
Okay, great.
So the council one's coming forward first, the staff is just concluding forward to council.
Okay, great.
Okay. Any more discussion before I call the question? All in favor? And those opposed, passed unanimously. Thanks, Raj.
Thank you.
Now, Councillor Nicholson.
So the Metro report. Metro Parks met on the 10th of October And the primary purpose of that meeting was to go over the budget planning for the coming year. And the work in Crippen Park and Davies Orchard is part of that planning. And the external.
Rob and Bob, could you guys maybe take the conversation outside so we're disrupting the audience? Thank you.
The external.
And the counselors.
Yeah.
The external consultants have been selected, and there's more information to come from Metro on who they are and their timelines. Jeff Fitzpatrick and Sylvia Pendle also came to the last meeting of the Heritage Commission and talked about their process. It was a good meeting. A number of things were cleared up. The Metro Board met last Wednesday to do its first run at the coming year's budget process, and the board will be meeting again this Friday to ideally move forward with the budget. There's a fair amount of transition coming up in the Metro board, as you're probably aware. Of the 21 mayors, 16 of them will not be returning. So 3 of them went down to defeat on, 3 who chose to run went down to defeat on Saturday. Of the 40 directors on the current board, 15 of us were re-elected, but again, there's no guarantee that those who are re-elected would be selected to be the Metro Vancouver reps. So interestingly, the first message I received regarding my re-election was at 11 p.m. on Saturday night from the director of Metro Parks saying, "Congratulations, it's nice to see someone's coming." And I also got in touch with Carol Mason. I don't have the correspondence yet, but one of the loose ends with Metro was getting that confirmation from Chair Moore that Bowen be considered as rural. The letter is, Carol believes it's done, and she will check with it this morning and get it to us before the end of our term.
Wow.
So that's really important.
Good.
Fabulous.
On the Islands Trust side of things, I just want to say we've got approximately the same turnover, it looks like to be, at Islands Trust Council, about half, maybe
12.
only a third, yeah,
12.
12 out of 26.
Yeah.
Are returning, and the rest will be new. A proportion of them are acclaimed, including our neighbors on Gambier Keats. That'll be Dan and Kate Wiesgen. And I just wanted to draw your attention to the items in the information items here. 12.8 is the housing needs assessment for the northern region, and that Islands Trust did for affordable housing needs assessment for all the other islands except Bowen. We had some discussions about whether to be involved in that, and that had not gone ahead, but I did want to flag that you can have a look at the report and see whether this is the kind of information that we think might be useful for Bowen Island. There's a chance to, probably still a chance to join in with Islands Trust and get some cost sharing happening, use their process so that all of our islands are comparable in the Islands Trust, and we can be part of the same data set if we wish to do that. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I think, Dawn, you had put that into our agenda. I believe it's been in the agenda before. This is H, 12.8H. And then also just a few other things that are in our information agenda. 12.14, Chair Peter Luckham of the Islands Trust wrote to the National Energy Board about the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion, asking that marine shipping be included. 12.15, similar, asking that the proactive vessel management be considered in different ways, especially including anchorages. And 16, he wrote to BC Ferries, asking that they not dump sewage holding tanks close to islands, and not in this area, I should say. And then 17, this is a follow-up from,
Yeah.
this is a follow-up from our meeting with BC Hydro that we had at UBCM, where we asked about the solar net metering. Chair Luckham wrote to BC Hydro asking about what policies are behind their decided to cap what you can get back from putting solar panels on your roof. And so you can have a look at that. Basically, they don't want what they call oversized solar panel facilities creating energy. But that doesn't answer the question, what policies are behind it? Because they also, I got in the mail, my email from BC Hydro, how to reduce and conserve energy. Anyways, it just seems nuts. So I'll keep an eye on that, but I just wanted to bring your attention to those things. Our next meeting is mid-November, and I'm hoping that's where we get sworn in as Islands Trust trustees, and I hope that it doesn't overlap with our council getting sworn in.
We're doing it the Thursday before.
Okay.
We moved our date just to accommodate Islands Trust.
Great. Good. Well,
So
we're
we
all
have a
part
new
of the
date.
same.
Yeah, no,
We're
we
all
just
part of the
realized.
same local government system, so I was hoping that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Just a question, was Chair Lapham re-elected?
Yes,
Yes,
he was. Elections for chair and executive committee, which is another 3 people that, with Chair Luckham, form the executive committee that takes on most of the decisions, like referrals from Global Municipal Council go to the executive committee, not to the whole Islands Trust Council. Those elections happen at our first meeting in November, which will be in Victoria. Chair Luckham is re-elected to his island, so
We'll see.
we'll see.
Thank you.
Okay, Gary?
Well, just a question for Maureen on the Davies Orchard. Is there any kind of a timeline? Are they gonna be in there next spring, or what do you sense?
The design work will be done later this fall and next spring.
Okay,
It's unlikely there'll be much in the way of construction before 2020-21.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
Allison, do you have anything on Islands Trust?
No, there hasn't been any meetings, and the information items are self-explanatory.
Okay. Thanks, Llewellyn. Moving along to items removed, let's start and do them numerically. Start with 3.2.
Oh, I gotta get back to the beginning here. I think it was just 2 very simple, because Alan was in the hospital, I did not attend the public hearings.
That was updated.
Oh,
Okay.
because I went to, that was why I pulled, and the same for, the public hearing for both Lord and Dyke were showing that I was not I was there and I wasn't. And I guess with Dyke, this, in the agenda, we called it Dykes, D-I-K-E-S. And all through the rezoning referral, it's D-Y-K-E.
Those have all been corrected.
And, okay, so I guess it didn't get into the agenda note piece that we have, because I logged out and logged in again last night and it didn't come up, so that's why I told them. So I'll move that the minutes be adopted as amended.
Okay, and those are items.
3.2 and 3.3.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Which is done. Okay, and then.
Tyler was way bit busy this weekend.
Yeah, I know.
Before the election, so
It's okay.
they were.
Move it right along.
Okay, let's move on to 3.6. That is the lot 1.
Yeah, this is the lot 1 rezoning.
Yes.
And so I wanted to say, I looked at my notes, the last time this came up before us in the end of September, I mentioned that I thought that the part set aside in lot 1 for the future was small. What I meant to say was it was steep. That's area 2? I forget, the part around the public works yard. Anyway, I will look at my cheat sheet. Anyway, I just wanted to say, I think that the planning has been deficient. Although we've done lots of planning, it's based on the idea that light industrial is needed by the community, and our public input didn't uphold that hypothesis. So I think the whole public process the planning process is based on that fallacy. I think there's traffic concerns that haven't been brought into consideration, particularly if it is if it does develop as light industrial, or as Murray said at one earlier meeting, if that's the first project to come forward, then it kind of becomes the use. And so I think traffic needs to be thought of more carefully there, especially in the school area. And if there's housing around it, I think the kind of unbuildable steepness of the area set aside for the future does our future residents of Bowen Island no favors. We know that the future is going to be challenging with climate change and all kinds of other changes that happen, and that's the steepest part of the project. I couldn't find my map with the pink steepness on it, but I do have one that has the elevations marked on it, and it's very steep there. And then looking over the current works yard, and then we have this comprehensive planning of community lands in our workshop report from June, and this, the public input isn't reflected in the planning for the detailed planning for lot 1. So that's why I think it's deficient. I'll be voting against the motion.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak to this? Okay, just to clarify that, by passing this, we are not moving forward with any light industrial. What we're doing is creating the possibility that at some point in the future, somebody will come before this council with a proposal that council at that time may decide they want to go ahead with. And they will look at traffic considerations, they will look at slopes, they will look at densities, they will look at other uses proposed at the time, and make a decision based on that. So what we have done by passing this rezoning is simply creating possibilities that can be looked at by council in the future. And all of the things that you suggest are things that should be looked at will have an opportunity to be looked at. So I just wanted to say that again. Anyway, the recommendation is, so any other discussion? Yes.
In prior discussion of this bylaw, there was mention of a traffic management plan being a requirement when something actually did come forward. So that has been anticipated. And the point that the public input that was received at the community lands workshop, there were changes made to the draft bylaw subsequent to the community lands workshop that allowed for residential use on the first part area, the light industrial part of the lot. So there was responsiveness.
I guess I think from the community lands workshops and the other comments we received prior to including residential, the comments were that there wasn't a lot of residential and was there a need for light industrial. Once we included the residential, I think those comments disappeared. And as I said at the last meeting when we gave a third reading, if we were going to remove something, what were we going to remove? General services, indoor entertainment facility, indoor recreation, live-work unit, light manufacturing, assembly, processing, including food and beverage products, tool repair, rental. So they're not a huge, great big, steam belching, smoke belching, small factory. So anyhow, this is a sandbox for the developers to be creative in and come back to us with something, because we still have to subdivide it and everything else to sell the lots. We don't have to sell to the person who offers.
Okay. So the bylaw, as per our agenda package, 3.6, move adoption. Then seconded, and all in favor, and those opposed. And some things never change. Thank you. That is passed with the 3 that voted against the third reading are still consistent. Okay, moving on to 3.9. This is Public Park Advisory Committee Terms of Reference. And that was you, Allison, was it?
Yes. Okay, so, morning, Shauna.
Good morning.
I think I sent you my comments, hopefully.
I didn't receive them on the terms of reference.
Oh,
Well, you
okay.
can just send them to me.
So I guess my first question is, I'm not quite sure why 2.1 and 2.2 and 2.3 are in there. They seem very odd for terms of reference for the members of the Public Art Advisory Committee.
I think it was, yeah, just describing what the roles and responsibilities would be.
But we're talking about the advisory committee, not council and not bylaw, so my
Right.
druthers would be to leave those out.
Those were the pieces, I believe, were taken out of the policy from when we adopted the the policy was adopted on October 9th, and that was the points that were asked to be amended, taken out of the policy,
But
and
this is
added
the
to the
term-
terms of reference at the time, was the suggestion. So,
I would suggest removal. Due to the election, I didn't have a chance to review them, and I think Allison's right. It's good information to have, but it's not really what we would include in terms of reference. And I don't think it impacts the terms of reference themselves.
I think it confuses them.
Did we not, at the previous meeting, ask that the Snug Cove Design Panel be included in the
We
list?
did.
And I didn't see it.
But that was, I think, that was added to the policy
I think
itself.
it was added.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
thought it would be,
This-
oh, it doesn't need to be reflected in
Doesn't need
here?
to be reflected in the terms of reference.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
And on 3.1, the committee shall be composed of up to 7 voting members. And then you've got voting members, so that's totally redundant. I think that should be removed because they're all listed underneath. And just a fine point on, I am assuming the staff member would be nominated by the CAO, and the directors from the Arts Council and the staff member would be nominated by the Arts Council.
I think that's implicit in there, yeah.
Yeah, as long
I mean,
as
it's
that-
always good to have that in terms of reference, but all our other terms of reference.
Don't do that, but
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
just. And then in the term of office, why only 2 years? Is that standard
I
on
think
most of
that's
ours?
standard.
Or we, I guess.
This is a report that our committee clerks will be bringing forward to the next council.
Yeah, okay.
Is we're all over the place with
Yeah,
them.
so she's trying to
Yes.
synchronize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
We need to
agree.
revisit that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Steph did review that, the committee clerk did review this as well, so.
okay. So the 3.3 or 3.2 talks about replacement if somebody doesn't attend meetings, and they're replaced for, it's big enough to read it, to serve the remainder of the term. But there's nothing that says if a committee member finds it necessary to resign, a letter to that effect should be sent and copied to the committee clerk. So it doesn't talk about council appointing for the remainder of the term versus a whole new 2-year period, if there's a vacancy. I think what we've done with some of the other committees, if there's a vacancy, they only get appointed for the remainder of the term. So it's just a question as to whether it was, I don't have a problem either way. If we're consciously intending to, if there's a vacancy, just replace them for a further 2 years, but then we end up with staggered term lengths all over the place, rather than saying, council may appoint somebody to fill the remainder.
Steph and I have started working on revisions to both our committee handbook, resource handbook, where a lot of this will be, and also effectively the cheat sheet for committees, but we're also reviewing all of our terms of reference.
Getting them all, okay.
So I would suggest adopting these terms of reference, and they will end up being tweaked again.
Okay, so I would like to remove 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3, and remove the word voting members, that's sort of at the end of the first line on 3.1. And if that's okay with everybody, then I'll move the adoption as amended.
I'll go. First of all, let's get a seconder on that, and then we can
I'll
discuss.
second.
Yeah, okay.
I do have a concern about simply removing 2.1. And maybe there's another way of dealing with it. One of the important parts of that section was to clarify that the Public Art Committee was not going to be doing the purchasing, the commissioning, the donating, the temporary display, that responsibility, when it came down to spending money, that rested, the authority rested with council. It's, if you take that piece out, it's not clear, unless somebody else can see it, where it says that council has that authority.
Like, I'm just looking at that as being covered under E. They're gonna have to develop evaluation criteria and a process for selection for council's approval. And that's where you would put that council has the final say in the purchase.
Well, somewhere it needs to say that.
I mean, and again, I apologize, Sean, just because of last week. I have problems with trans-referencing the same as I did with the policy that council shall approve each purchase, commission, donation, or temper upon the recommendation of the Public Arts Advisory Committee. Council should not be fettered in that way in terms of reference either.
The last time we discussed it, we talked about revising the language to council has the authority to, so that change isn't reflected.
I would, and again, if I had time, and Stefan had time last week, I developed a consistent terms of reference template that this doesn't fall into. And I don't think with what's going on with the change of council, having inaugural, it'll be the end of council before, end of November before council can really effectively appoint council and committee members, is if we can bring this forward to November 13th, and Shauna and Steph and I can work on the template.
Yeah.
So I'm just uncomfortable, it's so different than the rest of our templates.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. My point was going to be that we're not going to appoint anybody to committees yet.
Exactly.
So we've got some weeks to align everything and make sure that all
That would be maintaining.
checking back with the policies and all that stuff.
And I apologize that I haven't had
No,
a chance to look at
could I
this.
ask for two small points? Just one on 2.1. It says, Bowen Island Arts Council, okay, they will advocate for art. I guess they absolutely will. The other one, you're actually introducing a new, well, a word we don't use very often, which is de-accessioned. If you look at 2.4.
Yeah. You want a definition?
No, I know exactly what the definition is. It's actually to take something out of something that holds works of art usually and recommend them for sale. De-accessioning is, if you're going to do that, could you at least, if you subprint somewhere else, a mechanism for that process, because there are numerous case law and history of litigation of what is the value of something you're taking out of a collection. It's a small point, but if you're going to use that word, maybe you just get a little legal advice on how we handle it, put it in so it's dealt with, and then it will be something to trip over in future.
Yeah.
This will be for
I
future
second
councils,
this.
but
Yeah.
do it now. If we de-accession anything,
Right.
you need a small mechanism, Murray, just to say that, look, if you're going to take something out, put a value on and sell it, this is the way we're going to do it.
Would that not be under policy rather than in terms of
It may well, but
It is
it needs to
under
be, then it just needs to be covered, and so we just don't fall over it in time to come. If we do it now, while everyone's mind is focused on it, then it's done.
So either the policy needs to be
It's
referenced
a
in
small,
that, or
it's a
be
small
worded
point,
like
wrap it, I
E.
would ask the CAO to wrap it up wherever, I just draw attention, it's somewhere, it needs to be embedded
maybe-
in something, so there's a term of reference.
Maybe the policy that we passed a couple weeks ago.
Frankly, I don't care if you do it on the washroom wall, but as long as it's somewhere visible.
What's that?
As long as we-
Maybe in another motion.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, so we can now defer this?
Well, I don't think we have a motion because Maureen was questioning some of the changes, and I had said, if you're subject to agreeing to all those changes, I would make the motion. So I don't
Oh,
think.
I get you.
So I
So we have
don't
no-
I don't think we have a motion on the table,
Okay,
because Maureen seconded something that didn't turn out to be what I had said.
gotcha. So moving right along. 3.10.
So this is deferred, right?
So we'll just defer the item.
Good point.
Okay, welcome back.
Yes, I'll stay.
Who wanted to pull 3.10?
Me again.
Allison.
The PowerPoint presentation, was that specially designed for this council meeting? Or was that the one they gave before?
That was the one that was given before.
Okay, so we're not insulting you by not asking you to give your PowerPoint
No,
presentation.
you're not.
Okay, so in the resolution itself, in the recommendation, turn the page here, make sure the one in the report is the same as the one in the agenda. We have to put the words in, the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to execute. And then, going down in the report, we're not ratifying something, are we? Because ratifying implies that we already agreed to it by an email resolution. But anyhow, that's a technicality. Is there a temporary use permit?
Yes, so the temporary use permit, currently on Veterans Park.
And when does it expire?
It expires in June. However, there was a council resolution on June 25th, resolution number 18279, that staff be directed to undertake the rezoning of the athletic field site to be brought forward at a future date to accommodate current uses. And I've spoken with planning staff, and they have indicated that a current use of disc golf would be part of that rezoning.
Okay, that one I couldn't remember. And then, now the only cost that we're gonna be required to pay, because in the last line of your report, it says BIM will require a $1,500 annual budget allotment to maintain the course and mitigate tree removal, but if I'm reading the project agreement correctly, it's only for mitigating hazardous trees and that kind of stuff.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was based on previous parks work that came out to about $700 per kilometer.
Okay, so it's only
trail.
for getting rid of trees, not
It's-
for maintaining?
Yes, that's right.
And then in point 6 in the project agreement, it's got this little line in here, Construction Pacific CPSA, which is the collaborative project drafted by BIM. Why would you have drafted by BIM?
Yeah, we can take that out.
I think that should be deleted.
Okay.
And that was it. Oh, and then one question, it's just a club, it's not an association or society, right?
It's just a club, and that was checked with Chris Murdy, who said that they could be referred to as the party and referred to as the Bowen Disc Golf Club, but sign as individuals on the execution.
So signed on behalf of BDGD is okay, rather than?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so you want to move something?
So I would move that council approve the collaborative services agreement as amended. We remove some words. For the final design and construction of the Bowen Disc Golf Course as attached to the report from the manager of Recreation and Community Services, manager of Environment Department Planning, presented at the October 22nd, 2020 council meeting, and that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to execute such agreement on behalf of Bowen Island municipality.
And seconded. Any discussion before I call the question? All in favor? Passed unanimously. Okay, I think we're now down to the question period.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Al. So, do we have any questions?
Ron was here.
Any questions? No?
Hearing none.
Hearing none, we are adjourned.
Well done.
I just want to say, you guys are going to be great addition to council. I think that getting some new blood in here for the next 4 years is a good thing. I think you've got all the best of my ideas about 3.5 years ago, so. And I really, I feel great that, that I'm leaving the things in such good hands, and that the community is so happy. I mean, I think it really came through in the election, that there is not a lot of discord in the community, and even the election for mayor, but you guys should have just flipped the coin and
Been done with it, yeah.
I've talked about really fair representation of the different groups within our community. I think that's what we want to measure this on, and I'm really proud of the way that I've left this. I feel I've left at the perfect time. So congratulations to all of you, and best of luck, and I'll be back from time to time to straighten out.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will.
But not in writing, okay?
Are you going to commit never to write in the bulletin ever again?
No, you need a contrarian in the room, that's my job.